Aya, let us continue the plundering of the New Order catalog. I'm going to do Lowlife today. Here it is, Lowlife. Arguably their best moment. I can definitely see an argument that Lowlife would be their best album. I think this is a great album. Absolutely one of their best. Just like Power, Corruption, and Lies, I would entertain any argument suggesting that this is their best album. This is a really wonderful, beautiful album. As I've mentioned before, Technique is my favorite New Order album, and I'll do a video on that soon. But man, I think Lowlife, it's tough. As always, it depends on the day. But I think given the day, Lowlife would be a close second to Technique. And I feel on some other days, Power, Corruption, and Lies might be my second. But I think in terms of New Order albums that flow, that have a fluidity to them, that have a through line, Lowlife arguably is their best. All eight of these tracks they complement each other so well. It really is their most cohesive moment in some ways. And I think Lowlife, again, if someone said this was their greatest album, I wouldn't argue with you. This is a beautiful piece of work. Just like any New Order release, the music, the artwork, the production, the aesthetics of the release, I mean, everything's just beautiful. And this record's been out for almost 40 years, which is hard to believe, man. This is actually the first New Order album I ever heard. I was 13 years old in 1985, and I think the first time I ever heard New Order, oddly enough, I don't know, I don't remember how this happened. I have an older cousin who was into punk and post-punk and disco, and he was cool. And I think he had this album on tape and he played it, and I heard Love Vigilantes. I think Love Vigilantes, oddly enough, may be my intro to New Order. That's the first time I ever heard a New Order track. It wasn't Blue Monday. It wasn't, Confusion or any other bigger 12-inch they put out. It was Love Vigilantes. And you have to remember, in the mid 80s, it wasn't easy to hear Blue Monday necessarily in the United States. I think Blue Monday was huge everywhere else, but it was still kind of a cult hit here in the United States. So it wasn't that easy to hear. It really wasn't. It definitely wasn't being played on the radio here. Maybe in cool parts of LA or New York it was being played, but not here in bumfuck Pacific Northwest. You could not hear Blue Monday on the radio. That just did not happen. And I was listening, trust me. This is, I mean, like I said this with Depeche Mode, and I said this with another New Order album. I think this is a dangerously perfect album. There just isn't a single moment on here that's not really inspiring. Beautiful stuff. Songwriting, production, all of it. Barney's lyrics and vocals, Hookie's bass, Morris, Stephen Morris's drumming. I mean, it's ridiculous. This album is gorgeous, man. And as I look at these tracks, something I didn't mention in the Power, Corruption, and Lies video, you have to consider the arc this band was making. They went from Movement to Blue Monday and Power, Corruption, and Lies to Lowlife to, obviously the stuff they did after this. I mean, this band was on a true dramatic arc, and it was going in the right direction. I wasn't really, again, I was only 13 years old at this time, but I can only imagine what listeners in the music press were thinking. I mean, they must have been thinking like, this band knows no boundaries. I mean, they could just keep reinventing things as they go. These guys are just simply one of the coolest bands on the planet. And they didn't really seem to exert much effort. They probably did. They cared deeply about their music, obviously, but it didn't appear that way outwardly. It just seemed like they were so fucking cool. They didn't know they were cool. They were just doing what they were doing, and it was cooler and better than everybody else. That's one of the magical things about New Order. They just they hit at a certain time, and they had that certain approach and a certain appeal. and certain talents where just everything came together, and it was a thing of beauty. Really beautiful stuff. And Low Life, absolutely, positively, one of their greatest albums. As I look at this track list, I mean, it reminds me that Low Life, arguably, is their probably their most organic but compelling album. I think Movement is very organic. And when I say organic, I mean guitar, drums, bass, vocals, you know. New Order hasn't made music that way in forever. They've become more or less an electronic band. But Low Life is their last true, I think, like in sound and in approach, like their last true punk rock, possibly their last punk rock moment. It's a very intimate sounding album. The versions you find on this record are different than what you find on the 12 inches. And they're better, by the way. I'll talk about that. This is their last album where it was just the band playing together. You can almost hear it. They're in a room. It's raw. It's emotional. You can hear the emotion in Barney's vocals. You can hear the band performing together as a band. Now, of course, it has electronics on it, but this is a very old-fashioned, traditional New Order album, and arguably the last time they did that. I don't think, actually, it's not even an argument. It just is. This is, other than Movement, which I think is a very awkward album, this is their least electronic album. This is their least disco album. And it's brilliant for it, man. It's awesome. You forget what great musicians these guys are. They're excellent musicians. Tons of talent. And you hear it on Low Life. As I look through the track listing, I mean, Love Vigilantes, or Vigilantes, however you want to pronounce it. Beautiful song. Barney gets very personal. You can definitely feel some emotion in his vocals, something that he has been sadly lacking for a long time. He wrote very personal songs at this time of his life. Love Vigilantes is a really beautiful song. Awesome stuff. And just, again, a very old-fashioned type New Order song. Guitar, drums, bass, vocals. Boom. Here it is. Perfect Kiss. I mean, come on. In my humble opinion, The Perfect Kiss is the greatest New Order track they ever did. Now, not the album version. The album version is good, but it's an edited, truncated version. My favorite track of all time from New Order is the 12-inch version of The Perfect Kiss. And of course I'll talk about that. The Perfect Kiss, a perfect song. But you got to have the right version. It's not the Low Life version. That's not the perfect version. Although the album version is fine. It's great. And it's produced differently. It is an edited version, and you can tell it's just a different version. The vocals are different. And This Time of Night, Sunrise. Oh my God, Sunrise. How intense is that? Sunrise, one of their most intense tracks. Honestly, I think some of the best, other than Perfect Kiss, I think the best tracks on this album are the non-singles. In fact, I think Subculture is the worst song on here. But the album version is vastly better than the 12-inch version. The 12-inch version, it's an extended mix. It was mixed by John Roby, and I talked about this a little bit in my last The Power, Corruption, and Lies video. The John Roby mix, not my thing, man. Everything they did with him is, in my opinion, the worst stuff they ever did. And he had his hands on State of the Nation and Shell Shock, basically. And I'll talk about those in my Brotherhood video, but 1986 was a very awkward year for New Order. Not my favorite year for them. Not their best album, and definitely not their best 12 inches. They kind of stumbled there a little bit, I think. Not everything they did was a stumble, but I think they got involved with John Roby, and I thought that was a mistake. I've always thought that was a mistake. Subculture, it did come out as its own single. It was a 12-inch. This version is infinitely better. The Low Life version. So much better. If you've only ever heard the 12-inch version of Subculture, or you've only ever heard the version on Substance, which is the John Roby version, you're missing something. This version is completely different and completely better. Again, this is an opinion, but I think Subculture, the Low Life version, is so much better. than the remix version. It's not even funny. Alasia, that's that instrumental track. They ended up releasing this full version. It's like 20 minutes. You can find it on those extended editions of Low Life. They put it out on a box set 20 odd years ago. What was the name? Was it Retro? They put out a box set, and I have that buried in my archive somewhere. Maybe I should have pulled that up, but whatever. You can find a full version of Alasia, which is around 20 minutes, and it's really cool, man. It's just full on ambience. New Order in ambient mode. But this is like an edited 4 or 5 minute version you see here. Still great. Sooner Than You Think. A dancey track, but again, it fits very well with the rest of these more organic sounding songs on Low Life. It's got a pulse to it, it's got a rhythm, it's got a beat, it's got a drive to it. And then Face Up, which is, I've always thought Face Up is an interesting track. It's kind of it's the most uplifting song on the album. It's the least dark sounding song on the album. It's an interesting way to end an otherwise very dark sounding album. But it's very uplifting. Like you go through these 7 tracks of pretty much total darkness, and then you get to Face Up, and it's like, oh, we're happy now. It's an interesting way to end the album, especially after Power, Corruption, and Lies, which was Leave Me Alone, and that had a darker tone to it. Face Up is just kind of, yay, we're ending our album. And I don't mean that, that's not a slight. Face Up is a great song, just like any other song on this album. Again, an album that just flows beautifully. There's not a single bad moment. And I want to reiterate, the version of Subculture on Low Life is 1,000,000 times better than that John Roby remix. It's not even close. So if you've never heard Low Life, you've never heard this version, but you've heard the other version of Subculture, go check this out. Now, as always, I pulled out my particular edition of Low Life. Jesus, sorry for the noise out here. I have neighbors that like to be redneck douchebags and ride their motorcycles all over town. It's really nice, isn't it? Really annoying, more like. But this is the particular edition I have. This is the US vinyl version, the original version on Quest, Quincy Jones's label. My edition, I looked it up, and I looked up all the matrices and the matrix numbers and the catalog and all that shit. This is the version I have according to Discogs, but I don't have a promo stamp on mine, and I don't have this little track listing here. The original cover, there was no track listing on it. Like this cover, I mean, you get it here on the Obi strip, but the actual sleeve, this jacket, you didn't get the track listing. And I'm pretty sure the UK edition didn't have the track listing on it. Why they would put the track listing here on a sticker and on the Obi, I don't know. But this is the version I have. I just don't have this. And I don't have this promo stamp, which is cool. I just get this plain cover with this Obi strip here. And those of you who don't know what an Obi strip is, this is a Japanese touch. The Japanese put this little Obi strip. It's like basically like a little onion skinned strip that wraps around the sleeve and has information on it. But they did this in the UK, and they did this, Quincy Jones did this for the US release, and this is the version I have. This is also a very unique cover, very strong, powerful cover too. It's basically just Stephen Morris looking very annoyed. But I always thought this was of the 4 images of the band, and they're all strong images, no doubt about it. But I always thought Saville made the right choice. This is the most striking image, I think, with the shadows and the lights and Morris's expression. I just think that this is the most powerful of the 4. And it's also very unique because New Order never put their grills on a cover. You never see their faces anywhere on their albums. And so this is very unique for that reason too. Maybe that's one of the reasons why I feel Low Life is their most personal moment, is because this is the one album where you see their faces. There's Gilbert's face, Peter Hook looking annoyed, as he always, I mean, these guys always look annoyed. I don't think there are many grumpier bands in music than New Order, are there? Barney looking annoyed. These guys were always annoyed, it seemed like. Actually, Gilbert usually, she didn't usually seem too annoyed, but the three dudes, they just, Morris and Hooky and Barney all just seemed perpetually annoyed with each other. Especially Morris. I don't know. In interviews, it always seemed like Morris had very little patience for anything. He just was very annoyed. Anyway, a great cover. Great choice to put Morris on the cover, I think. And this is the back cover, obviously. And then this is the inner sleeve, these two images, Hooky and Barney. And then, here are the labels. Yeah. Low Life. Is this your favorite New Order album? I have a feeling that many, many, many people find Low Life to be their greatest album, especially old school fans that were there from the beginning. I think a lot of people look to this album as their favorite New Order album, and I wouldn't argue. This is a beautiful record, man. Records don't get much better than this. One of the best albums of the 80s, and just one of the best albums ever, really. It just is. Now I'm going to talk about the two 12 inches that came from this period. I'm going to save everything that came after Subculture for the Brotherhood video. That'll probably be a lengthy video. Right here. In my humble opinion, this is the greatest New Order release. This is the greatest New Order track. This 12-inch version of Perfect Kiss. And I have a couple of versions of this. This is the US edition I'm showing. You did get, you got a funky sleeve here. I can't think of the word for this now. It's escaping me. Yeah, I can't think of it. It'll come to me in a minute. But this is the cover. These are the labels. My 12-inch does have, my 12-inch has this sticker, but it does not have that. Again, they're putting in the US, it was important to tell people what versions they were getting. It's interesting too, on this label, they put the length of that original version. And really, Perfect Kiss, I mean, it's the extended version, but this 8.5 minute version, this is the original version, really. This is the version you see in the video. The video is really cool. It was directed by Jonathan Demme. Great video, one of the best videos of all time. And it's beautiful in its simplicity, just like the cover of Low Life. It's just the band in the studio performing the full version of the track. They all look annoyed. They all look tired and bored. But that's part of its allure. It's just cool. Oh, I see what they did here. They combined this. Okay. The Kiss of Death is just a dub version of Perfect Kiss. And then this Perfect Pit is just like a minute. It's like a 90-second, outerlude. And I see what they did here, because this version is only 7 minutes. This is a minute and a half. They combined the time there of the two. You actually get two tracks here, and the total time is 8:24. Anyway, I don't have this label, but mine looks like this. I do have this sticker. I don't have that promo stamp. But this is the version I have, and I've seen, what is that? Does it say in the notes here? Embossed. That's the word I was looking for. Does it say embossed? It doesn't say that here. Maybe it says somewhere in there. That was the word I was looking for. You get an embossed lettering here. I have a couple of UK editions of this too. One has, the labels are very similar, but the inner sleeve, this US one, I have a black, it's like a black polylined inner sleeve, and then I have two UK ones. One has a yellow inner sleeve, and then another one has a blue inner sleeve. I've collected these over the years because they're different. There might be more colors. I don't know. Are there more colors? I have 3 copies of this, basically. That's how much I think of Perfect Kiss. I really love this song. And then this is Subculture. There you see John Roby's name. One of the weakest. I'm sorry, but the stuff they did with John Roby, just not good. I'm sorry. It's an opinion. I don't like it. This is the US edition. I've seen the UK edition, and they got a plain, boring black sleeve as well. It's kind of surprising they put out a single in this time period and not have a cover, but I guess they just wanted to get this out there. So not much to see here. Here are the labels. They do put the album version here on the US edition, which is nice. I don't think you get that album version on the UK edition. Subvulture is just a dub, basically, of Subculture. One of their weakest 12 inches in the 80s, arguably their weakest, and that's, you know, I don't know that that's New Order's fault. It's John Roby's fault. You know, I don't know what New Order was thinking. I guess that they were just trying to get that John Roby sound. It's not a sound that I've ever approved of, so whatever. Who cares what I think? But one of, if not their weakest single of the 80s, Subculture. You want the real dope? Go to the album version. That's where the magic is. Low Life, man. And their greatest moment, The Perfect Kiss, the 12-inch version. Good God. And this is the version you find on Substance, by the way. The extended original version, as this says. This is the version you find on Substance. And I also want to point out, I think this is important. This is super meta, I know, but you want to get the vinyl version of Substance. The CD version has an edit of this. It's the original version, but they cut out like 30 seconds. I mean, I know that seems very insignificant, and it probably is to most people, but the vinyl version has this full 8-minute and 46-second version. The CD version's edited. So if you want the full magic, the full brilliance, the full version, get the vinyl version of Substance. Get this 12-inch. This isn't selling. See, look at this. Totally affordable. Median price of $13. Even for $25. That is a fucking steal. One of the greatest songs of all time. The original version of Perfect Kiss from a beautiful record, Low Life, New Order. You know you love it. Go listen to it again. All right. That's enough out of me. I'll talk to you next time. See you later. Goodbye.